Hi again. So this video will show how to graph trigonometric functions, and in this particular problem we are supposed to graph y equals 3 sine x over 1 period. In graphing a sine function, which is also the same for cosine function, you need to identify the period. The period is, like, you think of it as one cycle. So the moment you reach one period, the graph will just repeat that pattern. For sine and cosine, the period is obtained from the formula 2 pi over b. This b comes from the general expression or for the function sine, so bx. So b is the coefficient of x. In the given function y is equal to 3 sine x, the coefficient of x is 1, so b is equal to 1. So the period of this function is 2 pi over 1, or simply 2 pi. The next value that you need to compute is what we call the amplitude. The amplitude is the height of the graph from its center. So that's how high you will go from the center and how low you can go from the center. And the amplitude is simply the absolute value of A. So why absolute value? Because it's a measure, it's a length, and sometimes A is a negative number, so you have to get a positive number. So this is, in this case, our A. So from the general expression A sine bx, our A for 3 sine x is 3. So absolute value of 3 is 3. So how do we plot these important numbers? So we can use by 2 scale. So we can have, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll plot the period here, which is 2 pi. And then what you have to do is you cut the period in the middle. So 2 pi, half is pi. You cut the pi into 2 in the middle. So half of pi is pi over 2. And then you have the third one to be 3 pi over 2, which came from pi over 2 plus pi over 2 plus pi over 2 is 3 pi over 2. And then this is the origin. This is 0, 0 radians. And then the amplitude, which is 3. So we can have 1. So this is 1, 2, and 3. Then it can go only as low as negative 3. So how do we use these numbers? Note that the function is y equals 3 sine x, and x are the angles. So you can, it's either you put all the numbers one by one, meaning you put 0, then you compute what will be the y, then you plot the point. Or if you already know the pattern, the sine, the basic sine function, will always start from the origin. So your first point will be here. When you put the pi over 2 on the x, it will give you the highest number, which is 3. When you put the value of pi on x, it will give you 0. When you go to 3 pi over 2, you will have the minimum, negative 3. And when you put the 2 pi on the x, it will give you 0. So by connecting the points that you have on the graph, you'll be able to get the graph of 3 sine x over 1 period. Again, you have the choice. So you put each angle. So 3 sine 0, it will give you 0. Y equals 3 sine of pi over 2, it will give you 3. Y equals 3 sine of pi, it will give you 0. Y equals 3 sine of 3 pi over 2, it will give you negative 3. And y equals 3 sine of 2 pi, it will give you 0. But again, the key here is if you know the pattern of the graph, especially for sine, cosine, and tangent, so you just remember the pattern, and then sine always starts at 0. But the reason for that is when you put the numbers, the angles one by one, these numbers will come out. Hence, you have these points on the graph. Okay? So let's recap. So to graph a sine function, you need to solve for the period. So by the formula 2 pi over b. So that's 2 pi over 1 because the coefficient of x, which is b in this function is 1. So 2 pi over 1 is 2 pi. Then you have to compute for the amplitude. So you have absolute value of a, so absolute value of 3, which is equal to 3. Then you divide the period into 4 regions or 4 intervals. So first, half the period, that's pi. Half the pi, that's pi over 2. And then in between pi and 2 pi is 3 pi over 2, which can be simply solved by adding pi over 2, pi over 2, and pi over 2, or just multiply pi over 2 by 3. So you can get 3 pi over 2. And then you always start with 0, then the highest, the 0 again, the lowest, and then 0. Now, if you might ask, what if this is a negative 3? Then you still start at 0, but the direction will be, you have to go down first to negative 3, and then 0, positive 3, and then go back to 0. So the graph will be the reverse of 3 sine x. Okay? So that's it.